The arrival. The central command station of the Galactic Council hung in the void like a massive crystalline flower, its petals made of reinforced titanium and quantum-shielded glass. Inside the Grand Assembly Hall, representatives from 47 different species gathered for their monthly session. The air hummed with the soft whir of translation devices, converting thousands of different languages into comprehensible speech for each attendee. Council Director Thanes of the Zephyrii stood at the central podium, his silver scales catching the artificial light as he gestured with his forearms. His species had led the council for 3 centuries, known for their diplomatic wisdom and patience. Today's agenda seemed routine: trade disputes between mining colonies, new exploration boundaries, and resource allocation for scientific research. Beside him sat Commander Vrex, a towering Kranthian whose muscular frame filled his reinforced chair. The Kranthians served as the Council's military force, their strength and loyalty unquestioned for generations. Vrex's deep-set eyes scanned the assembly hall with practiced vigilance, though he expected no trouble today. At a smaller podium to the left, Ambassador Lyria of the Selkine Collective reviewed her notes on a holographic display. Her people were scholars and record keepers, their vast libraries containing the history of every known civilization. She had spent weeks preparing her report on ancient exploration data, a presentation that would normally bore most attendees into a pleasant doze. The session proceeded as expected. A minor territorial dispute between 2 merchant guilds was resolved. A request for additional funding for a deep space telescope array was approved. Several ambassadors checked their personal devices, clearly more interested in messages from home than the proceedings. Then everything changed. A sharp alarm pierced through the chamber. Red emergency lights began pulsing along the walls. Every holographic display in the room suddenly switched to tactical mode, showing the space surrounding the station in perfect detail. Thanes stopped mid-sentence, his silver scales darkening with concern. Vrex was already on his feet, his hand instinctively moving to the weapon at his side. Lyria's eyes widened as she accessed the emergency data streaming across her terminal. A young technician burst through the side entrance, his gray fur standing on end with fear. He was a Prixian, a species known for their exceptional sensor abilities and calm demeanor. Seeing him in such a state sent a wave of unease through the assembly. Director Thanes, the technician gasped, his voice breaking through the translation system. "We have multiple contacts. Unknown vessels. They just appeared at the outer boundary of our sensor range." The main display enlarged, showing the edge of the system. At first, there were only a few blips on the screen. Then more appeared, and more. Within seconds, the display showed dozens of contacts, all moving in perfect formation toward the station. "Show me visual," Thanes commanded, his diplomatic composure cracking slightly. The screen shifted. What appeared made every being in the chamber fall silent. The ships were unlike anything in the Council's extensive databases. They moved through space with fluid grace, their hulls absorbing light rather than reflecting it. Each vessel seemed to shimmer at the edges, as if reality itself bent slightly around them. Their design was angular yet organic, suggesting both predatory efficiency and artistic beauty. "Scan them," Vrex ordered, his military training taking over. "Get me species identification, weapon status, and shield configurations." The technicians worked frantically at their stations. Minutes passed. The tension in the chamber grew thick enough to cut. The unknown fleet continued its approach, maintaining perfect formation. They made no aggressive moves, but their very presence felt like a threat. "Director," another technician called out, his voice trembling. "We cannot identify these ships. The hull composition is unknown. The energy signatures do not match anything in our records. But there is something strange. What is it?" Thanes demanded. "Their communication protocols. We have analyzed their carrier signals. The patterns match something in our historical archives. Something very old." Lyria's fingers flew across her terminal, accessing the Council's ancient records. Her face went pale, an impressive feat for someone whose skin was naturally light blue. "Director Thanes," she said slowly, her voice barely above a whisper. 600 years ago, the Council made contact with a species called humans. They inhabited a planet designated Earth in the Sol system. According to our records, they destroyed themselves in a planetary war. Nuclear weapons. Complete extinction event. We classified them as a failed species and sealed their system off limits. She paused, her hands shaking slightly as she read the data. These ships are using communication protocols that match the old human systems exactly. The chamber erupted in chaos. Ambassadors shouted in disbelief. Some laughed at the impossibility. Others demanded immediate military action. The word human echoed through the hall in dozens of languages, each translation carrying the same note of shock and confusion. Vrex slammed his fist on his podium, creating a boom that silenced the room. That is impossible. We sent verification probes to Earth 200 years ago. The planet is a radioactive wasteland. No life, no cities. Nothing but ruins and poison. Those humans are dead. Perhaps another species found their technology, suggested Ambassador Krell of the Vortian League. His insectoid features twitched with nervous energy. Perhaps someone is using human designs to disguise themselves. Before anyone could respond, every communication device in the station activated simultaneously. Screens flickered. Translation devices hummed with sudden activity, and then a voice filled the chamber. It spoke in perfect galactic standard, the common language developed by the Council centuries ago. The voice was clear, confident, and unmistakably calm. Central Command Station, this is Fleet Commander Marcus Rivera of the Terran Expeditionary Force. We have traveled a long way to have this conversation. We represent humanity, and we have returned to claim our place among the stars. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the machines seemed to stop humming. Every eye in the chamber stared at the main display where the dark ships continued their steady approach. Thanes has found his voice first, though it took visible effort. This is Council Director Thanes. You claim to represent humanity. That species is extinct. Explain yourself immediately, or you will be treated as hostile intruders. There was a brief pause. When the human voice returned, there was something in its tone. Not anger, but something colder. Something patient, extinct. Yes, that is what your records say. It is a convenient lie, Director. The truth is more complicated. 600 years ago, humanity stood on the edge of destruction. War nearly consumed our world. But we did not die. We adapted. We survived. And while the galaxy moved on, forgetting we ever existed, we watched. We learned. We grew stronger. Another voice joined the conversation, this one belonging to Ambassador Lyria. Her training as a historian compelled her to seek answers. Commander Rivera, our probes confirmed the destruction of Earth. How could anyone survive what we documented? Your probes saw what we wanted them to see, Rivera replied. After the war, humanity made a choice. We realized that the galaxy was not ready for us. Or perhaps we were not ready for the galaxy, so we went dark. We retreated underground, beneath the oceans, into hidden colonies throughout our system. We let you believe we were gone, and in that silence we rebuilt everything. The fleet on the screen shifted formation. The ships spread out not aggressively but strategically. They formed a loose sphere around the station, each vessel positioned with mathematical precision. Still no weapons fire, still no overt threats, just presence, just power on display. Vrex studied the formation with a military commander's eye. What he saw made his blood run cold. These humans had placed their ships in perfect positions to cover every possible escape route from the station. If this became a fight, the Council's forces would be trapped. What do you want? Vrex asked bluntly. Why reveal yourselves now? Why come here with warships? We come with warships because the galaxy taught us a hard lesson, Rivera answered. 600 years ago, when we first reached out beyond our world, we encountered other species. Some of your member civilizations, in fact. We were young, naive. We thought the universe would welcome us with open arms. Instead, we found something else. The main display changed. New images appeared alongside the fleet. They showed human colonies on distant worlds. Small settlements, basic structures. Families trying to build new lives under alien skies. Then the images changed to show those same colonies under attack. Ships bearing Council insignias firing on defenseless buildings. People being herded into cargo vessels, resources being stripped away. While Earth burned, Rivera continued, his voice harder now, your people came to our colony worlds. The Zephyri claimed 3 settlements for salvage operations. The Kronthians took 2 mining colonies along with their populations. The Vortians harvested our agricultural worlds. You did not think we would survive, so you helped yourselves to what we left behind. Thanes felt something cold settle in his stomach. He had heard whispers of this. Ancient stories from his grandfather's time. Expeditions to human space that returned with unexpected wealth. Resources and workers from abandoned colonies. But the official records listed those worlds as empty. Unclaimed territory free for the taking. You speak of crimes without proof, Thanes has said, but his voice lacked conviction. We have proof, Rivera stated flatly. We have survivors. We have recordings from your own ships. We have testimony from humans who spent their lives as slaves in your mines and factories. We have been watching you, Director. For 600 years we have been watching and remembering everything. The chamber remained silent. Some ambassadors looked genuinely shocked. Others looked guilty. A few looked calculating, already wondering how this revelation might affect their own political positions. What do you want from us? Thanes asked finally. The answer came swift and clear. 3 things. First, acknowledgement. Admit what was done to humanity. Let the truth be recorded in your precious archives. Second, reparations. Return what was stolen or its equivalent value. Third, membership. Humanity will take its place in the Galactic Council with full rights and representation. You have 72 hours to decide. And if we refuse, Frex challenged, then we will take what we are owed, Rivera said simply. We did not come here for war, Commander. We came for justice, but we are prepared for either outcome. Choose wisely. The communication ended. The fleet remained in position, dark ships waiting patiently in the void. Inside the Central Command Station, the Galactic Council faced a truth they had buried for 6 centuries. Humanity had returned, and everything was about to change. The reckoning, the emergency session of the Galactic Council had been running for 18 hours straight. The Grand Assembly Hall, usually a place of measured debate and diplomatic courtesy, had devolved into chaos. Ambassadors shouted accusations at each other across the chamber. Ancient alliances crumbled as species pointed fingers, each trying to distance themselves from the crimes humanity had revealed. Director Thanes stood at his podium, his silver scales dulled with exhaustion. He had called for order 17 times in the last hour alone. No one listened anymore. The carefully constructed peace that had governed the galaxy for centuries was unraveling before his eyes. Commander Vrex paced near the military command station, his massive frame tense with frustration. His tactical officers had spent hours analyzing the human fleet. Every report came back the same. The human ships possessed technology decades ahead of anything the Council had. Their shields operated on principles that Kranthian scientists could not explain. Their weapon systems, while not activated, showed energy signatures that made even Vrex nervous. We could fight them, Vrex muttered to himself, studying the tactical displays. We have numbers. We have experience. But the casualties would be catastrophic. Ambassador Lyria sat quietly at her station, surrounded by holographic documents. She had spent the entire session diving deep into the Council's historical archives. What she found made her sick. The official records had been sanitized, cleaned of anything incriminating. But the raw data was still there, buried in subfiles and encrypted databases that no one had bothered to look at for centuries. Expedition reports describing resource acquisition from human colonies. Transport manifests listing salvaged biological assets that were clearly slaves. Mining operations on worlds that the humans had settled first. Trade agreements for goods that could only have come from human settlements. The evidence was overwhelming. She had tried to present her findings 3 times. Each time she was shouted down by ambassadors who did not want to hear the truth. A junior Zephyri diplomat approached Thanes, his young scales bright with stress. Director, we have received a message from the human fleet. Commander Rivera is requesting permission to send a delegation to the station. 1 shuttle, 3 representatives, no weapons. Thanes looked up, his eyes tired. What is the Council's position on this? The Council has no position, Director. They cannot agree on anything. Thanes made a decision. Grant permission. Have Commander Vrex provide security, but tell him to keep his soldiers respectful. If the humans wanted to attack us, they would have done so already. This is a negotiation, not a battle. 2 hours later, the human shuttle approached the station. It was smaller than expected, sleek and efficient. It docked without incident, its pilots demonstrating remarkable skill as they maneuvered into the assigned bay. The docking bay doors opened. Security officers from 6 different species lined the corridor, their weapons held ready but not aimed. Commander Vrex stood at the front, his imposing figure meant to intimidate. 3 humans emerged from the shuttle. The first was Commander Marcus Rivera. He was tall by human standards, with dark skin and gray streaking his black hair. He wore a simple uniform without excessive decoration. His eyes were sharp, taking in every detail of his surroundings with the gaze of someone who had seen war and survived. The second human was Dr. Sarah Chen, their chief scientist. She was shorter, with Asian features and hair pulled back in a practical style. She carried a datapad containing the evidence humanity had gathered over 6 centuries. The third was Ambassador James Okonkwo, their designated diplomatic representative. He was middle-aged, with warm brown eyes that seemed capable of both compassion and steel. He had spent his entire life preparing for this moment, learning every language in the council, studying every culture, understanding every diplomatic protocol. "Thank you for receiving us," Okonkwo said in perfect galactic standard, his accent flawless. "We know this is difficult." "We appreciate your willingness to talk," Vrex grunted. "Follow me. Do not deviate from the path. Do not touch anything. If you attempt any hostile action, you will be neutralized immediately." Rivera smiled slightly. "Understood, Commander. We are here to talk, nothing more." They walked through the station. Thousands of aliens watched as they passed. Some stared with curiosity, others with open hostility. The humans walked calmly, showing no fear despite being surrounded by potential enemies. When they entered the assembly hall, the chaotic noise immediately stopped. Every ambassador turned to look at these humans, these beings who were supposed to be extinct, who now stood before them alive and demanding justice. Thanes gestured to a podium that had been prepared for them. "Commander Rivera, Ambassador Okonkwo, Dr. Chen, you have asked for this meeting. The council will hear what you have to say." Okonkwo stepped forward. He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of as many ambassadors as possible. When he spoke, his voice was calm but carried throughout the hall. 600 years ago, humanity reached for the stars. We were young, imperfect, violent. We made terrible mistakes, and we paid for them with billions of lives. Our world burned. Our civilization nearly ended. The Galactic Council watched it happen and did nothing. That we understand. Why would you risk your own people to save a species that was destroying itself? He paused, letting his words sink in. But what happened next was not understanding. It was not mercy. It was opportunism. While Earth struggled to survive, while our people died in nuclear fire, your expeditions came to our colony worlds. These were not military outposts. They were farming communities, research stations, families trying to build new lives. They had nothing to do with the war. They were innocent. Dr. Chen activated her datapad. Holographic images filled the air above the chamber. They showed human colonies as they had been. Children playing in the streets. Farmers tending crops under alien suns. Scientists conducting research. Ordinary people living ordinary lives. Then the images changed. They showed council ships arriving, weapons fire, buildings collapsing, people screaming and running. Some images showed humans being forced into cargo holds at gunpoint. Others showed entire settlements being stripped of resources, leaving nothing but empty structures behind. "These are not recreations," Dr. Chen said, her voice clinical but her eyes showing deep emotion. "These are actual recordings recovered from your own ships. Your security systems documented everything. You kept records of your crimes." She touched her pad again. Audio files began to play, voices speaking in Zephyri and Kronthian, in a dozen different council languages. Orders to secure the human populations, discussions about the value of human labor in various industries, debates about whether to kill witnesses or simply relocate them far from their home worlds. The chamber had gone deathly quiet. Several ambassadors looked ill. Others refused to meet the humans' eyes. Ambassador Lyria stood up at her station. Her voice shook as she spoke. "I have verified all of this. I spent the last 18 hours reviewing our historical archives. The raw data confirms everything the humans are saying. We did this. Our people, our ships, our decision. We cannot deny it." "This is ancient history," Ambassador Krell protested weakly. "Those responsible are long dead. Why should current generations pay for crimes committed centuries ago?" Rivera stepped forward now, his presence commanding attention. "Because you still benefit from those crimes. The resources stolen from human colonies fueled your expansion. The technology you took advanced your science. The slaves you took built your infrastructure. Your entire civilization is built in part on what you stole from us. He gestured to the holographic displays. We are not asking you to return the dead. We cannot undo the past, but we can make the future better. We are offering you a chance to acknowledge the truth, to make amends, and to build something new together. Freck spoke up, his military pragmatism showing. And if we refuse? You said you would take what you are owed. How exactly do you plan to do that? Rivera met his gaze steadily. Commander, we have been preparing for this moment for 600 years. We have technology you cannot match. We have resources you cannot access. We have patience you cannot imagine. If you force us to take what we are owed, we will. But it will be bloody, costly, destructive for both sides. Is that really what you want? You are threatening the entire council, Thanos said, his voice hard. We are offering the council a choice, Okonkwo corrected gently. Justice or war, cooperation or conflict, a better future or a return to the violence that nearly destroyed my species once before. He walked closer to Thanos' podium, his eyes sincere. Director, we know you are a good leader. We have watched you govern with wisdom and fairness. We know the Zephyri have done much good in the galaxy, but you cannot build lasting peace on buried truth. Eventually, the foundation cracks. Eventually, everything collapses, a new voice spoke up. It belonged to Ambassador Talon of the Meridian Commonwealth, a neutral species that had joined the Council only 2 centuries ago. His people had no involvement in the crimes against humanity. He stood slowly, his elderly frame supported by a walking staff. I propose a solution, Talon said, his voice carrying the authority of age and wisdom. Humanity's demands are just. Their evidence is undeniable. But implementing their terms will cause chaos throughout the Council. Species will fight over who pays what. Old conflicts will resurface. We need a framework. He looked at both the Council and the humans. I propose we form a Truth and Reconciliation Committee. Every species involved in crimes against humanity will publicly acknowledge their actions. Reparations will be calculated fairly based on what was taken. Those reparations will be paid over time, not in a way that destabilizes our economies. And humanity will be granted full council membership immediately, with all rights and protections. Thanes considered this. It was a way forward. Not perfect, but possible. And what guarantees do the humans have that we will follow through? Rivera smiled for the first time since entering the chamber. Your Honor, Director, and our fleet, which will remain in council space until all terms are fulfilled. We will participate in council activities. We will trade. We will share knowledge. But we will also remember, and we will ensure justice is served. The vote took 3 more hours. Some species voted immediately in favor, recognizing both the justice of humanity's cause and the futility of fighting them. Others resisted until the very end, only agreeing when they realized they stood alone. When the final count was tallied, the resolution passed by a significant majority. Humanity would join the Galactic Council. The truth would be recorded. Reparations would be paid. A new era would begin. As the humans prepared to leave the chamber, Thanes approached them privately. His scales had regained some of their color, though exhaustion still showed in his eyes. You knew we would agree, he said quietly. You planned for this outcome. Okonkwo nodded. We hoped for it, Director. We hoped that when faced with the truth, the Council would choose justice. You did. That gives us hope for the future. Your fleet, Thanos asked. How long will it remain? As long as necessary, Rivera replied. But we are not occupiers, Director. We are partners now. We will help defend Council space. We will contribute to scientific research. We will participate in exploration. We came home to the galaxy. We intend to stay. Dr. Chen handed Thanes a data crystal. This contains everything we have learned about advanced propulsion systems. A gift to show our good faith. There is much we can teach each other. As the humans walked back to their shuttle, escorted now by honor guard rather than suspicious soldiers, whispers spread throughout the station. The impossible had happened. A species declared extinct had returned. Ancient crimes had been acknowledged. The galaxy would never be the same. In the docking bay, as the human shuttle prepared to depart, Rivera looked back at the massive station one last time. We did it, he said softly to his companions. We actually did it. The easy part is done, Chen replied. Building trust will take longer, Okonkwo smiled. We have time. For the first time in 600 years, we have all the time we need. The shuttle detached from the station and glided back toward the waiting fleet. Behind them, the Galactic Council began the difficult work of confronting its past and building a better future. Humanity had returned to the stars, not with conquest but with truth, not with revenge but with justice. And the galaxy, whether it was ready or not, would have to change. Far above the station, the human fleet began to disperse. Some ships took up defensive positions around Council space, others prepared to escort human colonists to new worlds. A few turned toward home, carrying the news that would spread across hidden human colonies throughout the galaxy. The long silence was over. Humanity had spoken, and the universe had listened. In his private quarters, Thanesis sat alone, studying the data crystal the humans had given him. The technology it contained would revolutionize space travel. It was a generous gift, far more than required by any negotiation. Perhaps he thought these humans truly did want peace. Perhaps their return would make the Council stronger, not weaker. Perhaps mistakes made 600 years ago could finally be set right. He activated his communication system. Begin preparing official documentation for humanity's Council membership. And someone get me Ambassador Lyria. We have 6 centuries of historical records to correct. Outside his window, the stars shone bright and steady. Somewhere among them, humanity was building its future. And for the first time in a very long time, that future looked bright. The reckoning had come. Justice had been served, and a new chapter in galactic history had begun.